Hey guys, I'm Pierre Piscitelli. Hope you're all doing great. Today's video, as you can tell by the title and thumbnail, is not a piano lesson. It's more of a mini rant, but I'm going to try not to make it too negative. This is more of an observation of some negative trends that I've noticed in really large crowds, especially audiences at live events. I'll start by saying that I'm very fortunate to live here in New York City, where we have unprecedented access to a very vibrant music scene. If you want to see a jazz trio, a major arena act, an opera, the ballet, the orchestra, whatever, it's all here, and we're super lucky to have that. And it does occur to me quite frequently, because I'm a workaholic, that I never take advantage of this stuff. So last month, I decided to be fun, and I said to my wife, hey, let's go to the opera. So I bought the two cheapest tickets to the Magic Flute, which is my favorite Mozart opera, which was playing at the Metropolitan Opera. Once we got inside, I remembered why I don't go out anymore. The experience was nothing like I remembered. The opera is supposed to be kind of a civilized thing where you at least put on some decent clothes, right? You don't talk throughout the whole thing. You put your phone away. It's acoustic, right? The hall is designed to have nice acoustics. There's no sound system, nothing's amplified. So you really have to concentrate and not be loud, right? In order to enjoy the opera. But what we experienced was kind of striking. Like, people were coming in late for at least the first 10-15 minutes. We could barely hear the overture. About a quarter of the crowd watched the entire thing through their phones while filming it, which I thought was just stupid. There were loud, audible conversations happening all around us throughout the entire thing, which was just mind-blowing. And I just couldn't get over the apathy and just lack of respect. And I know I sound like an old man yelling at clouds. I know this gives off like kind of a Larry David paranoia kind of vibe, but this was really, really annoying in this particular setting. At a Pearl Jam concert or a Dream Theater concert, you don't notice this kind of stuff. It's loud, people are standing up, they're moving, whatever. But this is the opera. Read the room. Fast forward a couple of weeks, I decided to make a second attempt at being fun, and I got tickets to a Bruce Hornsby show in New Jersey. But this was special. It was Bruce Hornsby with Y Music, which is an ensemble of young musicians from New York. It's kind of a contemporary classical group. They're really brilliant, and you guys should check them out. But this, again, was the kind of show that really commanded some attention. You have to have an attention span. You have to be quiet at certain moments. It commands respect. It's not the kind of thing where the audience can just be loud the whole time and it goes unnoticed. This experience was even worse. People were flowing in for almost a half hour past the show's start time, and the ushers really couldn't do anything about it. People arrived already drunk, having loud conversations. Some people were fighting amongst each other around us. About a quarter of the crowd, again, had their phones up, and this time, several people had the light on their phone, illuminating the whole crowd, not realizing that their phone lights were on, and people got into arguments with each other to tell the other person to shut their phone lights off. At one point, a guy behind us was rewatching the videos that he took of the show while the show was going on with the audio on. Try to imagine that. He's watching Bruce play and rewatching his own video of like 10 seconds in the past with the audio on. And this was not an accident. It just kept going and going until someone eventually told him to shut up. Not to mention, phones were actually ringing throughout the show. A lot of the applause was kind of tepid. I could hear that people were getting restless. And in fact, Bruce made a joke when he came back out for the encore about the audience and the audience's applause. He took a jab at the audience and was like, that was almost not enough for us to come back out here, what gives, or something to that effect. He delivered it with charm, but I understood his point. Upon reflecting on these experiences, my first reaction, of course, was to blame myself. I thought maybe I'm getting old and crotchety and I'm too introverted and I don't want to do this anymore. But after talking to a couple of musicians and fellow YouTubers, I realized that this is a common experience. It is less noticeable at louder shows where you can stand up, where there's, a sound system like a rock or a metal show, but nonetheless, the change in behavior is real. It took about 5 seconds for me to find a ton of articles on this subject. My favorite article was one from the BBC by Claire Thorpe called "From Shakespeare to Harry Styles, Have Audiences Always Been Rowdy?" The article goes on to describe when Harry Styles was pelted with chicken nuggets in New York while on stage at MSG, and how earlier this month, Drake was hit in the arm by a flying phone. That came days after country singer Kelsea Ballerini was struck in the face with a bracelet. Okay, so this is way worse than people talking or filming, being rude, arguing, or whatever. This is people throwing stuff at performers on stage. This is crazy. So this is way worse than what I experienced. Maybe I should consider myself lucky that nothing was thrown at the opera singers or Bruce Hornsby while he was on stage. She goes on to say that it's not just live music seeing disruptive behavior. In April, police were called to a performance of the Bodyguard musical in Manchester when rowdy audience members reacted with unprecedented levels of violence towards the staff. Billie Eilish, meanwhile, thinks that this kind of thing, while infuriating, is nothing new. Dr. Christy Sedgman, a senior lecturer in theater at University of Bristol, who specializes in audience research, also cautions against calling this a new trend. She goes on to explain that people have always thrown things on stage, whether it's fruit, underwear, or flowers. Dr. Sedgman says, I've worked with a lot of people throughout the cultural industries, and the message seems to be pretty much unanimous that since lockdown ended, the situation has fundamentally shifted. The idea that audiences should sit and listen quietly is actually a recent expectation. People are thirsty for live entertainment again, but increasingly want it on their own terms, especially when ticket prices are soaring. People are coming in with actively competing ideals about what they want that experience to be like. Some people want to not be disturbed by others chatting, eating, or drinking, or having phones blocking their way. Other people want to maybe take a step backwards to the time when the arts was a more sociable experience. I think that sums it up right there. A lot of us going to see live music have competing ideas about what it should be. For a lot of people, it's a hangout, it's a social thing. You get loose, you drink a little bit, you hang out with your friends, you watch the show, whatever. For someone like me, I guess, who's a big music nerd and just wants to analyze and focus and enjoy the experience, all that stuff drives me nuts. I'll leave you guys with one more quote from this article that I think really sums up the message beautifully. Recent events could be a bellwether for deeper issues. Live performance has always been a laboratory space for figuring out what it means to be together. Pretty much every time society goes through a big period of unrest, that unrest starts to ferment and explode in live performance first. Audiences are a kind of canary in a coal mine for much bigger frustrations and divisions starting to bubble over. It's important that we pay attention to what's happening in the cultural sphere. It's an indicator of what's happening to us as a society. Now, to think positively for a second, is there something that we can do to reconcile the desires of two very different types of audience members? People like myself who pay a lot of money for a ticket, want to hear the music and just be left alone, and people who are going for the social thing. Or should we just put a hard line down and say, no, you can't do that at a show, it's rude, forget it. That's what I'd like to do, but that's not reality, and people need to sell tickets and need to appeal to as many audience members as possible. So maybe in the back of some of these small theaters or opera houses, there can be a section with a little bar and stools where you can't talk and throw things, but you can mumble a little bit. You can get a drink, you can come and go and shuffle your jacket and cough or use your phone, right? Things like that. And it's not as big of a deal, and it doesn't affect people who perhaps want to opt for the quiet section. Venues could also make money on this, and they could charge more money for quiet sections. The Metropolitan Opera actually has several seats that don't have views for score study. So people actually bring scores and they study, and they get to sit in this little sort of nook that doesn't have a view, but you can hear everything. Just trying to think positively about solutions and what we can do to accommodate everybody. So there's my mini rant for the day. Maybe the experience that I'm looking for as a paying audience member is irreconcilable, as the article says, with the experience that most other people want in such a forum. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments if you've had similar experiences as a performer or audience member, especially my viewers around the world. I really want to know what it's like, because I do think that audiences vary in Europe, in Asia, South America. It's not always the way it is here. Love to know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys in the next one.